his announcement as Dr. Doom, Robert Downey Jr. has officially neutralized Harvey Dent's iconic Dark Knight line.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Also, with Deadpool and Wolverine kicking off the hopefully badass mutant saga of the MCU, it's time we call back to some of the best memories from the Fox universe. Yeah, today the TV Regent is giving you the top 25 badass X-Men scenes in the movies.
What's the matter, baby? You don't think I look pretty like this?
Yeah, this entry reminds me of a famous Magneto line from the OG X-Men sequel. It's kind of obvious, especially in this generation, but I still feel the need to remind you that we must always stay strong in the face of temptation. Even a Vietnamese general gave in to his intrusive thoughts, and look where that landed him. To be fair, Mystique did do a great job of keeping him interested right until she lands the decisive strike by transforming and knocking him out with an attractive-looking kick. The way she asks him if he doesn't find her pretty anymore was both funny and cool, because everyone realized at this point that Mystique had accomplished exactly what she needed to. Alternatively, it would have been hilarious if the general actually liked his women blue and badass. Also, Jennifer Lawrence seems to have taken this kind of role a bit too seriously. Just look at what she did in 2023's No Hard Feelings. It's basically Mystique without the transformation powers.
And you know the drill. I'm gonna count to 3, and you're gonna start walking away.
I got rights to this one.
1.
I have a lawyer now.
2. 3.
When you're trying to mess with freaking Wolverine, pretty much anyone can predict how it's gonna go. I really feel bad for Mr. Munson. Poor dude probably just wants to live a calm, peaceful life with his wife, but he just can't catch a break, can he? Those old bullies sure as heck didn't want to cut him any slack, but enter Hugh Jackman in an angry mood to ensure his buddy's left alone.
Who's this?
The guy telling you to get back in your nice truck. Go play okie dickhead somewhere else.
It's a pretty simple encounter, with Logan doing an Uno reverse on the bullies with the whole the drill line, but that headbutt definitely felt personal. The most badass aspect was obviously the way he broke that shotgun. You gotta scram if your opponent can break such weapons with his knee. I also like that little interaction between Logan and Mr. Munson, where he's asked if he's had any combat experience, and he answers with,
"Some."
Bro has been through every war since the American Civil War. I think that's a whole lot more than just some training.
You know the drill.
Give him a goddamn hat.
Get the hell out of here.
Fuck off.
Go!
Imagine an opponent so formidable that the only way to beat them is to run or make sure they never existed. When Days of Future Past came out, we all went into theaters. One thing we weren't expecting to see was the Sentinels effortlessly tearing down prime-level mutants as if they were just taking out the trash. The opening scene in itself was such a shocker that it prepared us for an eventful time ahead. Now, being badass isn't limited to being good, bad, or even an anti-mutant robot, so this sequence totally qualifies for the list. Just watching those Sentinels demolishing Iceman or Colossus so brutally sent chills down my spine. This is how you make a villain scary. You make him logically effective, and also don't let him waste any time by explaining his motives with a grand speech. This is one of the few times the villains are better in the movie than in the comics. In the comics, the Sentinels were cannon fodder and could easily be destroyed, but here, they're absolute nightmare fuel.
I'm going to count to 3, and I'm going to move the coin. 1, 2, 3.
Sebastian Shaw could have actually become an extremely dangerous villain for Charles Xavier and co. if he didn't murder Magneto's mom in front of his face. Yeah, imagine if those two actually joined hands together in getting rid of the humans and letting the mutants take over the world. Luckily, we don't have to worry about it because Eric drove a coin right through Shaw's skull with a little assist from Professor X. The scene begins to elevate after Shaw is frozen still by Charles, and then Magneto gives one of the coldest speeches before ending an opponent.
If you're in there, I'd like you to know that I agree with every word you said. We are the future. But, unfortunately, you killed my mother.
Man, those shots of the coin traveling through Shaw's head alternating with Charles's screaming in pain were really haunting. Poor bro had to bear the pain of something that actually took another guy's life. All of this only to have your budding buddy abandon you, and also steal your girl in the process. The fact that this was all achieved with an item as basic as a coin made this scene one of the most memorable in the film. Cyclops is probably one of the most underused characters in the live-action X-Men universe. Bro couldn't be utilized to his full potential in the OG trilogy, and then they made him some useless simp for Jean Grey. Maybe he can actually give it a shot now that Sophie Turner's single again. Anyway, the scene in focus doesn't have Jean Grey, but Emma and Kayla as the women guiding Scott Summers as he obviously smashes it with a laser blast in full force. The funny part was when he asked if he got him, and Emma just replied with,
Yeah.
See, this is what makes Cyclops such a dangerous mutant. He can wreak serious havoc if you allow him to unleash his full potential. However, they just surround him with pretty women, that too, who seem to end up with a Wolverine for some reason. I'm referring to Jean and Kayla here, in case you're wondering if Logan sneakily rizzed up Emma as well. Ah yeah, my queen Halle Berry was always going to make an appearance on this list, and I'm glad to see her kicking butt in this epic match against Callisto. So this is the first time they face off against each other, which means we have Wolverine taking on Juggernaut in the middle of all this commotion. The way Storm rises in the sky to kick things off was super epic, and it felt like the mutant version of the Royal Rumble. Storm was definitely given a run for her money, but she still managed to pull off some pretty awesome moves. If she'd landed that Thunder Punch on Callisto, then this entry would have been a lot higher up on this list. What did actually let it reach the top 20 though was when Storm gave Logan an assist by shocking Juggernaut with a thunder through his claws. See, this is exactly what teamwork should look like, you know?
Superhero landing!
I prefer not to hit a woman, so please play.
Gina Carano might have been done dirty by Disney, but she still made an impact in the Marvel Universe that Fox had control over back in the day. As Angel Dust, she gave us a pretty badass fight against Colossus, but I do need to call her out for basically cheating against him. I mean, we all know that Colossus likes to avoid fighting whenever possible, so it was obvious for him to look away and tell Angel to cover up.
That is so sweet. Thanks.
See, this is what a gentleman should be like. But then again, we live in a world where such people aren't appreciated. I mean, the man's showing you some chivalry, and your means of gratitude is whacking him in his 2 metal nuggets down there. Even if we ignore the hilarity of this scene, it's still a badass fight, and I also want to shout out Negasonic for that last moment assist. It was a pretty flashy way to end the fight. This movie will always be remembered for all the wrong reasons, but as long as people like me exist, you can bet your bottom dollar that you'll only be reminded of the good stuff. The chase scene, followed by the chopper explosion, was easily the best action sequence of this entire film, and I gotta give it to the stuntman for choreographing such an exquisite display. Whether it's Wolverine slashing those helicopter wings or walking away from the explosion like a grade A badass, there's nothing wrong with this particular sequence, and it goes on to show that peak level action will always reign supreme. The only loser from this scene had to be Agent Zero, but that dude was already violated enough.
After I kill Victor, I'm coming for you. You honor the animal, Colonel. You got it.
And I'm sure the actor must have been like, just end my character now so that I don't have to deal with the embarrassment any longer.
me out. Now you come here to kill me?
That's right.
Now, before you come at me in the comments, let me tell you that I'm very much aware of how Magneto was done dirty here. Yeah, I know they had to show Jean Grey winning because of plot armor, but they could have at least made the fight a little bit more interesting.
And you couldn't even do that? Let me show you how.
Like, Magneto is a lot tougher than this, and at the same time, this is exactly what makes the Phoenix badass. Her power levels are so high that even an S-tier mutant like Eric can't compete with her. The scene begins with Magneto presumably thinking he's going to tear into Jean, then he gets smashed out of sight in all of 10 business seconds. Man, even Kendrick Lamar didn't violate Drake as bad as this, but then again, they did have to show the extent of the Phoenix powers, which wasn't too far off from the comics either. At the end of the day, it's a solid flex from Jean Grey, and it establishes her as a true threat to mankind.
Leave this place!
I thought you protected mutants here.
I am protecting them. From you. Go!
Mr. Stryker, do you really want to turn this into some kind of war?
I was piloting Black Ops missions in the jungles of North Vietnam where you were sucking on your mama's tit at Woodstock, Kelly. Don't lecture me about war.
This one doesn't have any fancy fights or power displays or anything like that, but it rather shows the repertoire of hurtful insults that William Stryker can throw at someone. After a lengthy discussion with the president regarding the X-Mansion, Stryker gets slowed down by Senator Kelly, who doesn't want him to mess with the mutants. Now, we all know this is Mystique in disguise, but Stryker doesn't, does he?
Eric Lensher's prison. I'd like to arrange a visit, if possible.
It isn't a petting zoo, Senator. In this conflict, he is the enemy. You're just a spectator. So why don't you sit this one out, all right?
And this allows him to go off without any filter. Oh boy, the line he delivers is so ruthless that even Mystique might have felt sorry on Senator Kelly's behalf after hearing it, especially the mother's Woodstock part. However, there's a funny detail that I don't think a lot of people have noticed. In Days of Future Past, Mystique first meets Stryker while he's serving in the Vietnam War. So by that logic, she's rendered his insult to be redundant. But when it comes to the TV region, it's the emotion that counts.
Let's just say I'm Frankenstein's monster.
Revenge is a dish best served with some beer. At least that's how Magneto likes it if this bar scene from X-Men First Class is to be considered. What starts off as a harmless interaction amongst a few Germans turns into a rather deadly encounter amongst a few Germans. Just listen to some of the lines in this exchange.
Blut und Ehre. Ja, was würden Sie gerne zuerst verlieren? Wir hatten unsere Befehle. Also Blut.
You can tell the writers were working on it as if the rent was due. When it comes to taking out those prison camp soldiers, Eric's method of disposal was cold, calculated, and most importantly, badass. He made sure that each of those men felt fear and hopelessness right before getting rid of them. Bro wasn't kidding when he called himself Frankenstein's monster either. The man totally walks the walk. Also, apart from the badass disposal of those men, can we please appreciate how smoothly Michael Fassbender switches from Spanish to German? How many languages can this guy speak?
I'm looking for my creator.
You're gonna give me the keys to your car and some money for gas, or you're gonna wake up in the hospital. Trust me, I know how these things play out.
Oh, because you're from the future.
No, because of these.
Imagine having to travel back in time and you wake up right after bumping uglies with a mafia don's daughter. Personally, I wouldn't mind being transported to right before that night started, but hey, I'm not ripped like Hugh Jackman, so there's no guarantee I'm gonna land a girl like that.
I didn't sleep with her.
No.
No. I mean, yes, I slept with her many times, but...
Timmy!
Personal jealousy aside, the Wolverine looks like a prime alpha male in this scene. He's got the body of a god, he's got the company of a babe, and he's got the claws of a beast. Well, actually, the bone claws are the only thing that disappoint Logan in this scene, but the way he takes down those goons is still plenty impressive. The way he poses while he pops those bullets out is also pretty epic. If I was one of those goons, it would have been my cue to get the heck out of there as soon as I could.
Peaceful thoughts.
You let me walk out of here with my money, or I will pull this pin and we all die.
Go ahead. Pull it.
I'll do it, I swear to God.
No, you won't.
Out of all the Marvel villains we've seen so far, few have measured up to the sheer creep factor that Shaw gives out in this movie. Come on, he solicits young people with chocolate, shoves metal and energy blasts into their mouths, turns his female employees to women of the night, and can destroy colonels with the uncomfortable touch. Yeah, make him any shadier and we have another Drake in the making. On a serious note though, the way he absorbs a literal grenade with zero flinching is very unsettling. Colonel Hendry pretty much knew he was done after witnessing this madness, but I still wish they showed his end with a bit more detail. Yeah, come on, I know this is a PG-13 film, but you've got to at least show us the final product. I wonder if the MCU will ever consider bringing Shaw back to life. I mean, he did make for a great villain.
You're one of them?
Very astute of you, Colonel Hendry. You want to guess what I can do? I've got the power to absorb energy. Keeps me young. That's the boring part. The fun stuff is what I can do with it once I've got it.
Why they made Sabretooth run up a random wall only to have everyone eventually use the elevator, I'll never know. What I do know is that Agent Zero and Fred Dukes give us a brilliant sequence here where they showcase their skills to let us know they're top-class mutants. Agent Zero's style leans more towards agility and precision, while Duke is pretty much a softer version of the Hulk. Bro tanked a tank with just one punch and gave us a smile, as if he was going to get some candy for it. It's also funny how the first person Duke smiles at is Sabretooth, because that's the exact same dude who'd go on to take his life later on in the film. Also, if a guy like Dukes is so sturdy that he can withstand a tank blast, how exactly did he fall to some overgrown nails? Either way, this scene quickly established the Wolverine strike team was filled with overachievers.
Fred got a new tattoo. I'm concerned.
Oh, Jesus, Fred, you just met her last night.
I love her.
You love her after one night.
She's a gymnast.
The war is still coming, Charles, and I intend to fight it by any means necessary. And I will always be there, old friend.
Chess isn't a game for everyone. It's usually the smart people that have fun playing it. I mean, the Queen's Gambit pretty much solidified that fact, but way before the days of Anya Taylor-Joy, we had Professor X and Magneto engaging in some intellectual frivolity within the confines of a plastic prison cell.
Why do you come here, Charles? Why do you ask questions to which you already know the answers? Yes.
The conversation they have throughout the game may seem normal, but what amazes me is the confidence Charles displays after Eric threatens breaking out of prison. It's very much a possibility, and it does come true later as well, but Professor X just says that he'll always be there waiting for his frenemy to show up again. Pretty solid characterization here if you ask me. Also, here's a detail I only recently noticed. The fact that Eric still plays chess with Charles despite the latter being a psychic shows how Eric knows Charles wouldn't cheat. Now that's what I call true camaraderie. Surprising to see an entry from this movie in my top 10, but Nightcrawler really aces it with the aggression here, so I had to give him his flowers. Fighting all those weird aliens himself was badass enough, but it's also how he ended up finishing them off. The way he stared down that lady right till the train smashed her was menacing and cold to say the least. I never expected him to get so brutal because he's always portrayed himself as this innocent little guy who just happens to have a mutant skill. Bro tapped into the dark side with full effect, and I'm sure Azazel would have been looking at him from heaven or hell thinking, yeah, that's my boy. Yeah, I know he doesn't fare too well against Vuk, but that's just plot armor doing its thing again, isn't it? The important thing to note here is that you should never underestimate a teleporter.
2, 1.
Oh man, be prepared to cry yourselves out with this one. Magneto may be the most dangerous villain in the X-Men universe, but we do keep getting reminded of why he's made out to be this way. To lose your mother as a child, and then to lose your wife and daughter as husband and father has got to be the worst possible punishment anyone could get. It was such an emotional moment, and I don't even feel sorry for those stupid soldiers losing their lives soon after. It's a pretty badass display of power, but it comes at way too great a cost. There are a couple of callbacks here that you should know. First of all, if you look at Eric's daughter reaching out to him, it's the same way he reached out to his mother in the very first scene of the OG X-Men film. Also, the way he sends his daughter's locket through those soldiers' necks is somewhat of a callback to how he ended Shaw with a coin by passing it through his head. Similar punishments for similar crimes. Now that's poetic justice.
Is this what you want from me? Is this what I am? Is this what I am?
يا عم بلياتشو مالك انت بالكلام ده مضغوط.
It's not every day that you'll get rescued by a mutant god, especially if you're not Halle Berry. That's exactly why the new Storm should have thanked her lucky stars for Apocalypse showing up and getting rid of her harassers with the slightest bit of effort. Well, not all of them. There was this one dude who was smart enough to run away while he still had the chance, but you get my drift, don't you? The full extent of Apocalypse's abilities were still left unexplored in this film, but I will tell you what, the visuals of the Sand decapitating all those dudes was the most haunting sight out of all of them. It's just so uneasy and nerve-wracking that you actually don't even want to know what else this guy can pull off.
There are thousands of men on those ships, good, honest, innocent men. They're just following orders.
I've been at the mercy of men just following orders. Never again.
Remember when I said Magneto and Shaw would have been besties had it not been for some mommy issues? That's pretty much proven in this scene as Magneto manages to Uno reverse the military by launching their own missiles and nukes on them. To be fair, they attacked him first, so this was just a reciprocation, but it's no small joke for a mutant to be able to control so many deadly weapons with one hand wave. If Bro raised his hand a little bit higher, his German ancestry would have definitely gone the wrong way. Thank God for Charles becoming disabled here, because that was literally the only thing that stopped Eric.
I prefer Magneto.
You're the one who was attacked by the Grizzly?
I'm the one that survived.
I'd like to buy this man a drink.
What's your name, mister?
It's Logan.
You must be wondering where this film was all of this time. Well, it's here at number 6, which is a fair position, given how badass Logan looks here with all of that excess hair. Bro turned into an advocate for bears, and he was totally right to punish that sorry excuse of a hunter for not finishing the job he started. Man, the way Logan was building this up, I felt we were going to get something epic, but then Yukio had to spoil the fun. I swear, if the Wolverine let himself loose here, he could have ended at number 1 on this list. However, the teasing and the humiliation handed out to the hunter until the bottle smash was still good enough to land this high.
Okay. All right. I can do that bit.
You look nice.
I feel violated.
Look what happened to Scott! You killed the man you loved because you couldn't control your power!
No, stop it!
If you can disintegrate Charles Xavier, you'll always be in the upper echelons of the TV region. Just look at what Jean Grey does to poor Professor X here. The man had no chance in countering the might of the Phoenix, and his end was a pretty intense showing. Apart from the fact that we just saw our favourite bald man lose his life, there's also the incredible show of strength from Jean Grey. It's a deadly moment, and it makes you realise just how powerful the Phoenix really is. Kudos to Charles for at least smiling at Magneto before saying goodbye. He always was a man of manners.
Maximum effort.
I've never
said this, but don't swallow.
With the third Deadpool film set to make good on its budget, I thought it would be nice to give you a dose of semi-nostalgia. Well, this movie is only 8 years old, so it's not exactly too far back in the past. Anyway, the highway scene was the best possible introduction we could have gotten to this character, and everything that followed right after was certified badass. Whether it was Deadpool's jokes or the violence he was inflicting, this sequence told us exactly what we should expect from this franchise, and it didn't disappoint at all. See, this is what happens when you give the right kind of creative freedom.
I'm touching myself tonight. You're probably thinking, my boyfriend said this was a superhero movie, but that guy in the red suit just turned that other guy into a fucking kebab. Well, I may be super, but I am no hero.
My God.
The President of the United States is a hot topic nowadays, so imagine what would have happened to the world if Nightcrawler decided to invade the White House today. Luckily, he's only a character who totally nailed it in X2, so we won't have to worry about that happening in the real world just yet. I just can't stop praising this scene, and you damn well know why. The movements, the choreography, the sudden reveal, and even the ending, it is all literal perfection, just like Magneto would have wanted it. See, this is the guy you should hire to keep the presidential candidate safe. Well, technically speaking, I'm sure Hugh Jackman's going to give us a lot of epic scenes in Deadpool and Wolverine, but the movie's literally just released, so I'm not going to spoil anything for you. By that logic, the berserker rage in Logan currently remains the last time we saw Logan lose it. It was an epic display of strength and rage as our man mercilessly ran through a whole bunch of mercenaries just to make sure his powers were working fine. It's a legendary scene that could have just as easily grabbed the #1 spot, but I've saved that for something a wee bit special.
Oh, hello.
Too much iron in your blood. Mr. Lorio, never trust a beautiful woman, especially one who's interested in you.
Yep, this is the most badass way anyone has escaped prison, ever. I started this list with an entry warning you about pretty ladies, and now we've come full circle with the final entry also communicating the exact same message. That guard Lorio was cooked the moment he let Mystique get a taste of him, and then Magneto did the rest with all the excess iron in his blood. His legendary line about never trusting pretty women who are interested in you still holds strong to this day, so I hope you'll be more vigilant moving forward. Hope you liked the video, please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another video that I know you're going to enjoy.
It's over. Go home.